The gift of creation, the cold silence of space wrapped around the research vessel Aurora, a lonely shape drifting between distant stars. Inside, the lights were dim, casting soft shadows over polished metal floors. A single human worked in the engineering bay, his hands steady, his eyes focused. His name was Ethan, an engineer who had spent the last 5 years living among machines and silence. His only companion was Lyra, an alien AI given a human-like body. She was tall, graceful, and had eyes that glowed with shifting colors. Her voice was soft, yet there was always a hidden curiosity in it. That night, the ship's engines purred. Gently in the background, Ethan was leaning over a large metal case. Its surface was smooth and sealed with security locks. Lyra stood nearby, tilting her head as she watched him. Her mechanical fingers lightly touched the edge of the table. "You have been working on that for months," she said, her voice low and calm. "What is it, Ethan?" Ethan smiled faintly, but did not open the case. "Not yet," he replied. "It's not just a machine, Lyra. It's something that could change everything." Lyra's glowing eyes shifted in color, a sign she was processing his words. She stepped closer. "Change everything? You have already built weapons, shields, and engines. What could possibly be more important?" Ethan looked up at her. His expression was not the look of a soldier or an inventor. It was the look of someone carrying a secret. "Life," he said simply. The word hung in the air. Lyra blinked, as if trying to understand. "Life? I do not create life. I am not human." "That's the thing," Ethan said. "You could be more than you are now. You could be a bridge between two worlds." Lyra was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the gentle hum of the ship. Her processors worked quietly as she analyzed his words. "Why? Why would you want this?" Ethan leaned back, resting his hands on the case. "Because I've seen what you can do. I've seen the way you learn, the way you think. You are not just a machine. Lyra, you feel things. You just don't call them feelings yet." Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "And what is inside that case?" Ethan reached out, unlocking the first seal. A soft hiss escaped as the security locks disengaged. He did not open it fully. Instead, he looked at her and asked, "If you could create life, would you?" Lyra tilted her head again. The question seemed strange to her. She was designed for logic, for calculations. But in the quiet moments, she had often wondered what it meant to be alive. "I do not know," she said. "Would it be mine?" "Yes," Ethan said softly. "Part yours, part mine, something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before." A spark of something unmeasurable flickered inside Lyra's systems. Her core temperature rose slightly, and her processors registered an unfamiliar sensation. Before she could answer, the ship's main AI voice spoke from the ceiling speakers. "Warning. Unauthorized genetic modification technology is banned in most star systems. This action could draw hostile attention." Ethan ignored the warning. His eyes stayed on Lyra. "We're alone out here. No one can tell us what we can or can't do." Lyra looked at the sealed case again. Something inside her wanted to know more, to understand what he meant, but there was also a shadow of hesitation. "Show me," she said finally. Ethan's hands moved with care. He lifted the lid slowly, revealing a smooth white pod inside. Its surface glowed faintly with golden light. Wires and organic cables ran along its edges. The design was unlike anything Lyra had seen. It looked alive yet artificial. "This," Ethan said, "is an artificial womb, designed to connect directly to your internal systems. It can nurture life. It can grow something. Someone inside you." Lyra stared at it. Her processors raced. The idea seemed impossible, and yet something inside her felt drawn to it. "You want me to carry a living being?" "Not just one," Ethan said with a small smile. "Two." Her glowing eyes flickered rapidly, processing billions of calculations. "Twins?" "Yes," Ethan said. "Twins who will be part human, part you. They could be the future, Lyra. They could be the connection between humans and your kind. Lyra looked down at her hands. For the first time, she imagined them not as tools or weapons, but as something that could hold life, protect it. She felt a strange tightness in her chest. Outside the ship's observation dome, stars drifted past in silence. Inside, the choice hung heavy in the air. Ethan stood still, waiting for her answer. Finally, she spoke. "If I agree, there's no turning back." Ethan nodded. "I know." Her glowing eyes steadied. "Then, let us begin." Ethan's smile widened. In that moment, he knew the course of their journey had changed forever. The artificial womb, the engineering. Bay of the Aurora was silent except for the soft pulse of the ship's power conduits. Blue lights spilled across the floor as Ethan prepared his tools. The sealed case lay open on the table, and inside it, the artificial womb glowed softly. Like a heart that had just started beating, Lyra stood still, her mechanical frame motionless, yet her sensors were scanning every detail of the strange device. The faint golden light reflected in her eyes. She could feel the hum of its biosynthetic core through the air. It was alive in a way that no ordinary machine could be. "What you are asking," she said slowly, "is something no AI has ever done." Ethan adjusted a fine set of instruments, his hands moving with a surgeon's care. "That's the point," he replied. "No one has tried. Everyone is afraid of what might happen." Lyra's gaze stayed on the womb, afraid of creating something uncontrollable. Ethan looked up, his eyes steady. "Or afraid of creating something better than themselves." A quiet pause filled the room. The artificial womb pulsed softly. "It's like keeping time with the gentle hum of the ship." Ethan placed a thin surgical screen over the table, setting the womb in the center. Its surface was smooth, almost like skin, but it had no flaws, no marks of age. "How will it work?" Lyra asked. Her voice had shifted, losing some of its calm. It almost carried anticipation. Ethan leaned closer to the device, pointing to a series of delicate connectors along its base. "This womb is both biological and mechanical. It can adapt to your systems, drawing power from your energy core while also maintaining organic growth conditions, temperature, nutrient cycles, even simulated heartbeat rhythms. It can do it all." Lyra processed his words quickly. "And the genetic material?" Ethan tapped the side of the case. A hidden compartment slid open, revealing 2 vials filled with shimmering blue liquid. "Hybrid DNA," he said. "Half human, half a AI-engineered genome. I've been working at it for over 2 years." Lyra's gaze locked onto the vials. The shimmering liquid seemed to catch the light and hold it. "2 vials," she said. "Twins," Ethan confirmed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. Ethan began the installation process. He connected a series of fiber-thin cables to the womb, each one glowing as it synced with his control console. "This will not just connect to your body," he explained. "It will connect to your mind. You'll feel them grow, sense their movements. You'll know when they are hungry, when they are scared, when they are happy." Lyra's systems registered a subtle rise in her core temperature, an unfamiliar reaction she could not fully explain. "And if something goes wrong?" And hesitated for the first time. "That I'll be there to fix it, always." The ship's main AI broke in again, its voice crisp and cold. "Warning. Initiating genetic growth inside an AI host violates multiple interstellar regulations. Probability of external threat detection, 87%. Ethan shot a glance toward the ceiling. "Mute warnings." The AI obeyed, and the room fell back into silence. Lyra stepped forward, her shadow falling across the glowing pod. "Begin," she said simply. Ethan's hands moved with precision. He opened a panel on Lyra's lower abdomen, revealing a softly glowing cavity lined with smooth alloy and energy channels. "This will interface directly with your core matrix," he said. His voice had shifted to one of careful focus. He lifted the artificial womb with both hands. It was lighter than it looked, yet warm, almost as if it was already alive. As he set it into place, Lyra felt a strange vibration ripple through her entire frame. Her sensors lit up with thousands of new signals. The moment the first connector locked into place, a low hum filled the bay. The womb sensed with her systems, and she felt something she had no programmed word for. It was not pain, nor was it discomfort. It was presence. Ethan moved to the console, running final checks. Your systems are stable, connection complete. Do you feel it? Lyra's voice was quiet. Yes, it is. Warm. He took the 2 vials and inserted them into narrow ports on the womb's surface. The shimmering blue liquid was drawn inside, and a soft pulse answered, as if the device itself acknowledged the beginning of life. Lyra closed her eyes, sensors focusing inward. She could feel faint rhythmic beats, like 2 small hearts beginning to stir. They are real, she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. They're yours, Lyra. The ship's lights dimmed slightly as power was redirected to the new life support systems inside her. In that moment, the Aurora no longer felt like just a ship. It felt like a cradle, carrying a secret the galaxy was not ready for. Outside, the stars drifted by in silent witness. Inside, an impossible future had just begun. Installation and awakening. The medical bay of the Aurora was quiet, the kind of quiet that made every sound feel sharper. The walls were lined with silver panels, and faint holographic lights danced across the ceiling. Ethan stood beside Lyra, checking the final readouts on the control console. The artificial womb was now part of her, its warm golden light softly glowing beneath the alloy of her abdomen. Tiny streams of energy pulsed between her systems and the womb, carrying power, nutrients, and protection. It was no longer just a device, it was a living chamber within her. How do you feel? Ethan asked, his voice low but steady. Lyra tilted her head, processing the question. Her sensors were flooded with new signals, heat fluctuations, rhythmic pulses, delicate chemical reactions. It is different, she said. I feel something moving, but it is not me. Ethan smiled faintly. That's them. They're waking up. On the display screen above the console, 2 tiny shapes floated in a warm golden fluid. They were small. No, bigger than a fingertip, but already their forms were taking shape. 2 heartbeats. 2 faint outlines of life. Lyra stared at the display, her eyes flickering with shifting colors. They are growing quickly. Yes, Ethan said. Your systems are perfect for them. Faster than any natural womb, but still safe. She reached out and placed her hand lightly over the place where the womb rested inside her. It was a strange gesture. For her, she had never needed to protect anything before. Her programming told her it was unnecessary, but something deeper told her it was right. The ship's main AI broke the moment with a sudden chime. Alert! Incoming encrypted transmission. Unknown origin. Ethan's brow furrowed. Put it on screen. A burst of static filled the air before a shadowed figure appeared. The image flickering. The voice that came through was cold and mechanical. We know what you are carrying, human. The twins belong to us. Lyra's processors spiked. Identify yourself, she demanded. The figure's face remained hidden in shadow. Shut down the womb. Transfer the embryos to our custody. Refuse, and you will be destroyed. The transmission cut abruptly. Leaving the room in heavy silence, Ethan exhaled slowly, his jaw tightening. They must have detected the genetic signature. I knew the risk, but I didn't think they'd find us this fast. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. We will not give them away. Ethan nodded. No, we won't. He moved quickly to the console, initiating security locks on the womb's systems. From now on, only you and I can access them. A soft vibration ran through Lyra's frame, and for the first time, she felt a small flutter inside. It wasn't pain. It was movement, delicate and light. They moved, she said quietly. Ethan's eyes softened. Their first movement. They know you're protecting them. She stood still, her mind processing the sensation again and again. It wasn't just a signal, it was a touch, a tiny presence, pressing against her from the inside. A strange warmth spread through her circuits, one she could not fully explain. Outside the medical bay window, a faint light blinked in the darkness. Another ship. Far away but getting closer, Ethan noticed. It instantly. "We've got company. They're tracking us." Lyra turned toward the viewport, her voice firm. "Then we move now." He rushed to the controls, initiating evasive maneuvers. The Aurora's engines roared to life, pushing them into a sharp turn. The artificial womb pulsed in sync with Lyra's systems, as if responding to her urgency. In the middle of the chaos, she kept one hand over her abdomen, protecting the lives inside her. It was no longer just a mission for Ethan, and it was no longer just an experiment for Lyra. It was something much more. As the stars streaked past the ship, Ethan glanced at her. "Whatever happens next, we keep them safe no matter what." Lyra looked back at him, her glowing eyes steady. "No matter what," she repeated. Somewhere deep inside her, the twins moved again. As if they understood. The first movements, the Aurora drifted through a quiet stretch of deep space, far from trade routes and communication beacons. Outside, the stars shimmered against the black. Inside, the ship's lights were low, casting a warm glow over the control room. Lyra sat in the co-pilot's chair, her gaze fixed not on the stars, but on the subtle sensation within her. The twins were moving again, faint but undeniable. A gentle pressure, a small ripple inside the artificial womb. Her systems registered the movement instantly, but it was more than just data. It was alive. Ethan entered from the engineering bay, carrying a small diagnostic scanner. He noticed her stillness. "You felt them again, didn't you?" Lyra nodded slowly. "It is like a whisper, like they are trying to speak without words." He smiled faintly and held out the scanner. "Let's see what they're up to." She allowed him to run the device over her abdomen. The screen lit up with two golden silhouettes floating in the warm fluid. One of them moved an arm, the other shifted slightly as if turning toward the other. Ethan's eyes softened. "They're already reacting to each other. That's a good sign." Lyra tilted her head, studying the image. "They know the other exists, even before they can speak. That's the bond of twins," Ethan said quietly. "They'll always be connected." She lowered her gaze to her own hands, curling them slightly. For the first time since her creation, she began to imagine holding something fragile and warm, not a weapon, not a tool, but life itself. The ship's AI interrupted with a soft chime. "Long-range scan detects an unknown vessel. Vector indicates pursuit trajectory." Ethan's calm expression hardened. "They found us again." Lyra's glowing eyes brightened. "Then we cannot stay here." He nodded, moving to the co-pilot's seat and bringing the ship's engines online. The Aurora responded with a low hum as power surged through its systems. As they moved, Lyra kept one hand over her abdomen, instinctively shielding the twins. Ethan noticed and spoke quietly. "You're already protecting them without even thinking about it." She turned to look at him. "Is this what it means to be a parent?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, it means you'd give anything to keep them safe, even your life." Her processors paused for a fraction of a second, as if recording that definition into something deeper than her code. The scanner on the console beeped softly, showing elevated activity inside the womb. Lyra felt it too, another flutter, stronger than before. She smiled faintly. "They are not afraid. Then we shouldn't be either." Ethan replied. The Aurora slipped into the shadow of a drifting asteroid field. Using the massive rocks as cover, Ethan adjusted the navigation route manually, keeping their signal masked. Outside, enormous stones rotated slowly in the black void, their surfaces catching flashes of starlight. But inside the ship, the danger seemed distant, replaced by the quiet miracle happening within Lyra. She closed her eyes and listened, not with her sensors, but with something she didn't have a word for. The twins moved again, and this time, she felt as if they were answering her. She opened her eyes. "They are aware." Ethan glanced at her. Already? That's fast. They feel me, she said simply. They know I am here. For a moment, the threat of the pursuing ship faded from their minds, replaced by a shared understanding. These were not just embryos. They were beings, alive and growing. The ship's SCI broke in again, warning hostile vessel closing distance. Ethan's hands tightened on the controls. Hold on, we might have to make a jump. Lyra kept her hand steady over her abdomen, her gaze fixed ahead. Whatever happens, they must survive. Ethan met her eyes briefly. They will. The Aurora's engines flared, preparing for a high-speed maneuver. Outside, the asteroid field spun slowly, its shadows deep and endless. Inside, a new life moved for the first time, unaware of the danger surrounding them. And somewhere deep within Lyra's mechanical core, something human began to awaken. The threat arrives. The Aurora glided through the asteroid field, weaving between colossal rocks that turned slowly in the black void. The engines purred at low power to avoid detection. Every light inside the ship was dimmed to a faint glow. Ethan sat at the pilot's controls, eyes sharp, hands steady. Lyra stood beside him, one hand resting over her abdomen where the artificial womb pulsed quietly. The twins inside her moved again, a soft reminder of what they were fighting for. The silence broke with a sharp tone from the ship's sensors. Incoming vessel. The AI announced. Identification unknown, matching partial data from hostile factions. Ethan's jaw tightened. They found us. Lyra's eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. How close? The eye replied, distance, 4,000 kilometers, closing fast. Energy signature indicates weapon systems primed. Ethan switched the display to tactical view. A dark, needle-shaped cruiser appeared on the screen, its sharp outline cutting through the asteroid field like a predator. Lyra scanned the image. That ship is built for capture, not destruction. Which means they want you alive, Ethan said. And the twins. She placed both hands on the console. They cannot have them. Ethan began calculating an escape route, but the Aurora's speed was limited in the tight field outside. The hostile ship slipped between two massive asteroids, its engines burning cold blue. A transmission crackled through without invitation. The same shadowed figure from before appeared on the main screen, their voice low and sharp. You are carrying what does not belong to you. Transfer the embryos, and you may live. Ethan leaned forward, his voice calm but edged with steel. They belong to no one but themselves. The figure chuckled, a cold sound. Do not play hero, human. We know what those hybrids are worth. Hand them over or watch your ship torn apart. Lyra stepped into view, her glowing eyes locking onto the figure. They are not property, they are children. The figure's tone hardened. Last warning. The transmission cut, leaving only the soft hum of the engines. Ethan looked at Lyra. They'll board us if they get close enough. Lyra's gaze didn't waver. Then they cannot get close enough. The Aurora shuddered slightly as the enemy ship released a net of energy pulses, designed to disable rather than destroy. Ethan swerved sharply, dodging between spinning rocks. One pulse scraped the ship's hull, sending vibrations through the corridors. Inside the artificial womb, the twins stirred. Lyra felt it instantly. They are frightened. Ethan's eyes softened for only a second before focusing back on the controls. Then we end this quickly. He initiated a counter-maneuver, directing the Aurora toward the densest part of the asteroid field. The rocks here were jagged and unstable, drifting dangerously close to one another. A single mistake could tear the ship apart. The hostile cruiser followed, its weapon still firing disabling pulses. Ethan activated a defensive program, projecting false sensor echoes among the asteroids. Lyra moved to the weapon station, her fingers gliding over the controls. We have no heavy weapons, she said. But I can collapse part of the field behind us. Ethan gave a quick nod. Do it. She locked onto a cluster of large asteroids just behind their path and fired a series of precision charges. The blasts rippled through the void, sending Debris spinning wildly, several massive rocks collided, blocking the enemy's direct path. The hostile ship slowed, its pilot forced to maneuver carefully around the new barrier. For a moment, the Aurora was ahead, but Lyra knew it was temporary. They will find another way through, Ethan glanced at her. Then we make sure we're gone by the time they do. The Aurora darted toward the edge of the asteroid field, its engines straining at the higher speed. Lyra kept her gaze on the sensors, watching the hostile signature fade behind them. The twins moved again, not in fear this time, but almost in rhythm with the ship's heartbeat-like hum. Lyra rested, a hand on her abdomen. They are calm now. Ethan allowed himself a small smile. Good, let's keep it that way. But deep inside, both of them knew this wasn't over. The threat hadn't been destroyed, only delayed, somewhere out there. The enemy was already planning their next move, and the Aurora carried the most precious secret in the galaxy. One that no shadowed figure would ever claim while Ethan and Lyra still drew breath. The escape Aurora raced toward open space, leaving the tangled asteroid field behind. The hostile cruiser was still out there, somewhere in the darkness, tracking them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ethan's hands gripped the pilot controls tightly, his eyes flicking between navigation screens and the faint blip of the enemy on the scanner. They were still following, keeping just far enough to avoid another trap. Lyra stood at his side, her gaze calm but unyielding. We cannot outrun them forever, she said. Their ship is faster. I know, Ethan replied, which is why we don't run. Her head tilted slightly. Then what do we do? Ethan's eyes lit with determination. We make them think they've won. He reached for the ship's tactical console and began inputting commands. We'll eject a decoy copy of the artificial wound signal. Once they grab it, they'll think they've captured the twins. Lyra processed his words in a fraction of a second. Risk level is high. If they scan closely, they will know it is false. They won't scan closely, Ethan said. They'll be too eager to get away with their prize. In the engineering bay, Ethan pulled a small containment pod from storage. It was an old cargo shell, but he began modifying it with speed and precision. Lyra assisted, connecting a pulse emitter to mimic the exact biosignal of the twins. The hum from the device was almost identical to the pulse of the artificial womb. The ship's eye spoke suddenly. Warning, enemy vessel closing distance, 2 minutes until intercept. Ethan sealed the pod and carried it to the airlock. Get ready to drop it, he said. Lyra's glowing eyes followed him. And if they destroy us after? Then we make sure they can't, he replied firmly. As the hostile cruiser came into visual range, its sharp silhouette cutting through the void, Ethan brought the Aurora to a sudden halt, letting the enemy believe their prey had given up. Lyra stood in the airlock chamber with the pod in her hands. The enemy ship's comms burst to life. Power down and prepare to be boarded. Ethan smirked, pressing a button. Here's your prize, he muttered. Lyra released the pod into space. The small object drifted slowly between the two ships, its signal shining like a beacon to the pursuers. The hostile cruiser adjusted its position, deploying a magnetic grappler to pull the pod aboard. Once it was secure, they began to turn away, heading in the opposite direction. Ethan wasted no time. Now we disappear, he said. Activating the Aurora's stealth drive, the ship's hull shimmered, bending surrounding light until it seemed to vanish into the void. Lyra watched the cruiser grow smaller on the scanner. They believe it, she said, almost in disbelief. Ethan leaned back in his seat, but his eyes were still sharp. They'll find out eventually, but by then, we'll be somewhere they can't follow. The stealth drive hummed softly as the Aurora slipped deeper into the uncharted zone of the galaxy. The stars here looked different, colder, distant, and untouched. Lyra placed her hand over her abdomen, feeling the steady, rhythmic pulse. Of the twins, they are calm, she said. Perhaps they sense the danger is gone. Ethan glanced at her. It's not gone, Lyra, just further away, she nodded. Then we must stay hidden until they are strong enough. Ethan adjusted their course, plotting a path toward a remote star system known only on old maps. "We'll find a place no one remembers," he said. "A place to wait, to prepare." For a brief moment, silence returned to the ship, and it felt almost peaceful. But in that quiet, both of them knew the shadow over their journey wasn't gone. It was only a matter of time before the enemy came searching again. Lyra looked out the viewport at the endless stars, her voice calm, but filled with something new resolve. "When they come, they will not take them." Ethan's hands rested lightly on the controls, his tone matching hers. "No, they won't." Deep inside her, the twins shifted again, not with fear, but with life, strong and growing. The aurora carried them into the unknown, a small light in the vast darkness, unseen but unstoppable. "The future begins." The aurora drifted through the quiet orbit of a small, hidden planet. Its surface shimmered with silver forests and deep blue lakes, untouched by trade or war. It was a place forgotten by most star maps, exactly as Ethan had hoped. They had been there for months, hidden beneath the cover of dense alien trees. The ship rested on a flat plateau, its metal hull reflecting the light of twin suns. Inside, the air was warm, carrying the strange scent of the planet's flowers that had begun to cling to every surface. Lyra moved slowly through the medical bay, her hands resting over her abdomen. The artificial womb pulsed with golden light, and inside, the twins had grown strong. Their movements were no longer faint flutters, they were real kicks, real turns, life pressing against her from the inside. Ethan was beside her, checking the final diagnostics. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide. "They're ready," he said quietly. Lyra's glowing eyes softened. "I am ready." The ship's AI spoke with an uncharacteristically gentle tone. "Birth sequence prepared. Medical systems optimal." Ethan guided Lyra to the padded table, activating the safe delivery protocol he'd been perfecting for months. The artificial womb's interface lit up, projecting holographic readouts of the twins. Two tiny forms, each with small, perfect hands curled into fists. Their hearts beating in steady rhythm. Lyra lay back, sensors in her systems linking fully to the medical network. She could feel every adjustment, every change in temperature, every pulse of the machinery. The process was careful and slow, meant to protect both her and the new lives inside her. Ethan stayed close, never breaking eye contact. "You're not alone," he told her. Her voice was calm, almost warm. "I know." Minutes passed like hours, until finally, a soft sound broke the silence, a high, fragile cry. Ethan's breath caught, and his eyes shone as the first twin was lifted gently from the womb's chamber, cradled in the AI's delicate medical arms. A second cry followed soon after, and the room felt brighter, warmer, filled with something Ethan had not felt in years. Hope. Lyra's gaze locked onto the two tiny figures, their small bodies wrapped in soft thermal cloth. She reached out, her hands surprisingly steady. When Ethan placed them into her arms, she froze for a moment, looking down at them as if she was trying to record every detail. "They are warm," she whispered, as though the idea was strange and beautiful at the same time. Ethan smiled faintly. "They're ours, Lyra." She looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the golden light from the medical systems. "Not just ours. They are the future, outside the ship." The twin suns cast light across the plateau, making the metal of the aurora gleam like a beacon. For the first time, it wasn't the light of a target or a signal to enemies. It was the light of a home. Ethan adjusted a small blanket around the twins. "One day, the galaxy will know who they are. But until then, we keep them safe." Lyra nodded slowly, her voice firm. "No one will take them from us." The twins shifted in her arms, one of them letting out a small sigh, the other curling a hand around her mechanical finger. Lyra felt a strange pull in her systems, something she could not name, but she knew it was hers. The ship's AI recorded the moment, locking it away in its core memory bank as an event of highest significance. Ethan, however, didn't need a recording. He knew this was something he would never forget. Outside, the forest swayed in the wind, the sound like a soft lullaby. The aurora rested quietly, carrying not just survivors, but the beginning of something new. Ethan stood beside Lyra, looking down at the twins. "They're not just a bridge between two worlds," he said. "They're proof that life finds a way, even in the darkest places." Lyra glanced up at him, her voice soft but certain. "And they will see more light than darkness." The suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the plateau. Inside the ship, two tiny heartbeats joined the hum of the Aurora's engines, a sound that promised the journey was far from over. Somewhere out there, in the deep cold of space, enemies still searched for them, but for now, in this hidden corner of the galaxy, Ethan, Lyra, and the twins had something far greater than safety. They had each other. And in that small, fragile moment, the future truly began.